The old man's weathered hands trembled as he placed the menu down, his simple request met with a snicker that echoed through the upscale restaurant. What happened next would change not just one life, but an entire community forever. If this story touches your heart, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more powerful stories that remind us of the hidden heroes walking among us. It was a particularly busy Friday evening at Bellini's, the kind of night where reservations were booked weeks in advance and the staff moved with practiced precision through the dimly lit dining room. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over white tablecloths and polished silverware, while the soft murmur of conversation blended with the gentle notes of a piano in the corner. This was Charleston's premier dining establishment, where politicians made deals and celebrities were spotted when passing through town. Marcus Webb had been working at Bellini's for just under 3 months. At 24, he considered himself fortunate to have landed a position at such a prestigious restaurant. The tips alone would help him chip away at his mountain of student debt, and the connections he could make here might open doors he hadn't even considered. Tonight, he was particularly focused. The restaurant critic from the Charleston Gazette was rumored to be making an appearance, and everyone was on high alert. When the hostess led an elderly man to table 7 in Marcus's section, he barely contained his disappointment. The man wore a faded plaid shirt tucked into khaki pants that had seen better days. His white hair was neatly combed, but his ancient brown leather shoes were scuffed beyond repair. This was not the type of customer who ordered expensive bottles of wine or left generous tips. "Good evening, sir," Marcus said, approaching the table with a forced smile. "Welcome to Bellini's. May I start you with something to drink?" The old man looked up with clear blue eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. "Just water for now, thank you. With lemon, if you don't mind." Marcus nodded and returned moments later with the water. "Are you ready to order, or do you need a few more minutes?" "I know exactly what I want," the man said, his voice surprisingly strong despite his frail appearance. "I'd like a grilled cheese sandwich, please. With tomato soup." Marcus couldn't help it, a small laugh escaped before he could stop himself. "I'm sorry, sir, but we don't have that on our menu. Perhaps I could suggest the pan-seared scallops or our famous filet mignon?" The old man's smile didn't waver. "I understand it's not on the menu, but I was hoping the chef might make an exception. It's a special day for me, you see." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Our chef prepares only what's on the menu, sir. It's a matter of quality control. Could you ask him? Please?" The old man's eyes held a quiet dignity that made Marcus feel suddenly ashamed of his laughter. "I'll check with the kitchen," Marcus said, though he had no intention of bothering Chef Laurent with such a ridiculous request. He'd simply return and guide the old man toward a proper selection. As Marcus approached the bar to put in an order for another table, Antonio, the restaurant manager, caught his arm. "Is there a problem with table 7? "Just an old man who wants a grilled cheese sandwich," Marcus said with a smirk. "I told him we don't serve children's food here." Antonio's expression changed instantly, his eyes widening. "Did you say an older gentleman? White hair, blue eyes?" "Yeah, looks like he wandered in from a retirement home. Probably confused about where he is." Antonio gripped Marcus's arm tighter. "Do you know who he is?" he whispered, his voice intense. "Should I?" Marcus asked, suddenly uncomfortable. "That's Dr. William Thorne," Antonio said, his voice reverent. "He's a legend in this city." The name meant nothing to Marcus, who had grown up in Ohio and moved to Charleston only for college. Antonio pulled him aside, away from the busy dining room. Dr. Thorne was the only surgeon at Charleston Memorial who would treat black patients during segregation. He opened a free clinic in the South Side that's still running today. Half the staff here, including Chef Laurent, were born in that clinic or had family members treated there when no one else would help them. Marcus felt his stomach drop. "I had no idea. Today is the anniversary of his wife's passing. They used to make each other grilled cheese sandwiches on their first date, and every anniversary after." For the past 15 years, he's come here on this day because this building used to be their favorite dance hall before it became a restaurant. The weight of what Marcus had done, laughing at this man's simple, heartfelt request, settled on him like a stone. "I'll go apologize right away." "No," Antonio said firmly. "You'll go tell Chef Laurent who's here and what he wants. Then you'll serve him with the respect he deserves." Marcus nodded, humbled, and made his way to the kitchen. When he explained the situation to Chef Laurent, the normally temperamental chef grew quiet, then immediately set aside the elaborate dishes he was preparing. "I will make this myself," he said, his French accent thickening with emotion. "My grandmother would not have lived to see my birth if not for Dr. Thorne. He delivered her baby, my mother, when she was turned away from the hospital during complications." Marcus watched in awe as the renowned chef, known for his artistic culinary creations that earned the restaurant its Michelin star, carefully buttered bread and selected the perfect blend of cheeses. He prepared the tomato soup from scratch, adding a touch of basil and cream. When Marcus returned to Dr. Thorne's table with the meal, the old man's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, young man. This looks perfect." "Dr. Thorne, I want to apologize for my behavior earlier," Marcus said, his voice low and sincere. "I was disrespectful, and I'm truly sorry." The doctor looked up at him with kindness. "We all make mistakes, son. It's what we learn from them that matters." Throughout the evening, Marcus noticed something extraordinary happening. Staff members from all parts of the restaurant found reasons to pass by Dr. Thorne's table, offering quiet thanks or simply nodding respectfully. The bartender sent over a special non-alcoholic cocktail on the house. The pianist began playing what Marcus later learned was Mrs. Thorne's favorite song. As the night progressed, Marcus found himself returning to the table between his other duties, drawn to the gentle wisdom in Dr. Thorne's conversation. The old man shared stories of Charleston's history, of the challenges and triumphs he'd witnessed over nearly 9 decades of life. "My Eleanora always believed in the goodness of people," Dr. Thorne said as he finished his meal. "Even when the world gave us every reason to believe otherwise. She used to say that kindness is like planting seeds, you may never see the tree that grows, but someone will rest in its shade someday." When it came time for the bill, Chef Laurent himself emerged from the kitchen to inform Dr. Thorne that his meal was complimentary. The old doctor protested gently but eventually accepted with grace. "Then allow me to leave a tip for this young man," he insisted, placing a folded piece of paper on the table before carefully rising to his feet. After Dr. Thorne had departed, Marcus picked up what he assumed would be a modest cash tip. Instead, he found a handwritten note: "Your honesty in acknowledging your mistake shows character. If you're interested in learning more, come to the South Side Clinic on Tuesday. We always need good people." The following Tuesday, Marcus found himself standing outside the modest brick building of the South Side Clinic. He'd spent the weekend researching Dr. Thorne, learning about the man's extraordinary life of service despite facing threats, violence, and professional ostracism during the height of segregation. When he entered the clinic, he was surprised to find it bustling with activity. Volunteers of all ages moved purposefully through the space, and despite the obvious budget constraints, there was an atmosphere of care and dignity that many expensive hospitals lacked. Dr. Thorne spotted him from across the waiting room and approached with a warm smile. "You came. I'm glad." "I wanted to do more than just apologize," Marcus admitted. "Good. We need help with our community outreach program. Many of our elderly patients can't make it to the clinic anymore. We bring food, medicine, and company to them." That first Tuesday turned into every Tuesday, then Thursdays as well. Marcus rearranged his work schedule at Bellini's to accommodate his growing commitment to the clinic. He discovered that many of the restaurant staff had connections to the clinic, the hostess volunteered on weekends, and even Antonio served on its board of directors. 6 months later, when the clinic faced a funding crisis that threatened its existence, Marcus found himself unable to stand by and watch. He approached Antonio with an idea that seemed impossible but necessary. "We want to host a benefit dinner," Marcus explained. "One night at Bellini's, with all proceeds going to the South Side Clinic." To his surprise, Antonio didn't hesitate. "Laurent has already suggested something similar. The owner's mother was one of Dr. Thorne's patients. We'll close to the public and open for donors only." The benefit dinner became the social event of the season. Charleston's elite paid premium prices for tables, and Chef Laurent created a special menu that included an elevated version of grilled cheese and tomato soup as the first course, a tribute that brought tears to Dr. Thorne's eyes when he was honored as the guest of honor. That night raised enough money to secure the clinic's operations for 2 years, but more importantly, it connected Dr. Thorne's lifetime of quiet service with a new generation of supporters. Local businesses began sponsoring clinic programs, and medical students from the university created a volunteer rotation system. For Marcus, the experience transformed his understanding of success. He had come to Charleston chasing prestige and financial security, measuring his worth by the exclusivity of the circles he could enter. Now he found himself drawn to a different path. When Dr. Thorne offered him a paid position as the clinic's community outreach coordinator, Marcus accepted without hesitation, though it meant a significant pay cut from his restaurant work. "You remind me of myself at your age," Dr. Thorne told him. "I was headed for a prestigious private practice until I saw a mother being turned away from the hospital while in labor. That moment changed everything for me. Sometimes our true calling finds us when we least expect it." 3 years later, the South Side Clinic had expanded to 3 locations throughout Charleston's underserved neighborhoods. Marcus had completed a master's degree in public health administration, and the clinic's model of community care was being studied by organizations across the country. On the 5th anniversary of their first meeting, Marcus and Dr. Thorne sat in Bellini's once again. The restaurant had established a tradition of serving grilled cheese and tomato soup every year on the anniversary of Eleanora Thorne's passing, with a portion of the day's proceeds donated to the clinic. "You know," Dr. Thorne said, his hands now shakier but his eyes still bright, "Eleanora would have loved what's happened here. She always said that mistakes can be the beginning of something beautiful if we have the courage to learn from them." Marcus nodded, thinking of how a moment of thoughtless laughter had led him to his life's purpose. "I was so focused on impressing the wrong people that I almost missed the chance to learn from the right one." Dr. Thorne smiled. "We're all works in progress, son. The secret is to progress a little each day." When a new waiter, young and obviously nervous, approached their table, Dr. Thorne ordered his traditional grilled cheese with such kindness that the young man visibly relaxed. Marcus watched the interaction with a full heart, seeing himself in the waiter and hoping that someday he might embody even a fraction of the grace that Dr. Thorne had shown him. As they waited for their meal, Marcus noticed a family being seated nearby, a young mother with 3 children, all dressed in their Sunday best, though it was clearly an effort for them to afford such a restaurant. The oldest child, a girl of about 12, kept glancing at Dr. Thorne with wide eyes. Finally, she gathered her courage and approached their table. "Excuse me, sir. Are you Dr. Thorne?" The old doctor smiled. "I am, young lady. You delivered my baby brother last year when my mom couldn't make it to the hospital. You came to our apartment in the middle of the night." She spoke with the solemn dignity of a child who had shouldered adult worries. "I wanted to say thank you. He's right over there." She pointed to the infant in her mother's arms, and Dr. Thorne's eyes softened. "I remember. You were very brave that night, helping your mother while I was on my way." The girl beamed with pride before returning to her family. Dr. Thorne watched them with a gentle smile. "That's why we do what we do," he said quietly. "Not for recognition or reward, but for moments like that. For the lives that continue because someone cared enough to help." Marcus nodded, understanding now what no amount of education could have taught him. Success wasn't measured in tips or prestige or even in grand fundraising events. It was measured in the lives touched, in the moments of human connection that rippled outward in ways we might never fully see. As they finished their meal, Dr. Thorne placed his napkin on the table and looked at Marcus with unexpected seriousness. "I'm getting old, son. The clinic will need new leadership soon." "You have years ahead of you yet," Marcus protested, though they both knew the doctor's health had been declining. "Perhaps. But the work continues regardless. Promise me you'll keep it going, in whatever form it needs to take for the future." "I promise," Marcus said, and he meant it with every fiber of his being. When they left the restaurant, the setting sun cast long shadows across the historic streets of Charleston. Dr. Thorne paused to look up at the old building that had once been a dance hall where he had twirled a young Eleanora across the floor. "Life has a beautiful symmetry sometimes," he said. "Beginnings and endings, mistakes and redemptions, all woven together in patterns we can only see looking backward." Marcus nodded, thinking of how a simple laugh, unkind and thoughtless, had set him on a path he could never have imagined. How the very person he had dismissed had become his greatest mentor and friend. "Thank you," he said simply, "for seeing something in me worth believing in." Dr. Thorne smiled. "That's the secret, Marcus. Everyone has something worth believing in. Sometimes they just need someone to help them see it in themselves." As they walked together down the street, an unlikely pair bound by purpose and mutual respect, Marcus thought about all the lives that had been changed because one man had chosen compassion over convenience, service over status. He thought about how a single moment of humility had altered his own life's trajectory. And he silently vowed that Dr. Thorne's legacy would continue, not just in clinics and programs, but in the daily choice to see the dignity in every person, to listen to their stories, and to never again judge someone's worth by appearances. Because sometimes, the most ordinary-looking person at the table might just be the most extraordinary soul in the room. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Remember that behind every person is a story we may never know unless we take the time to listen. Your support helps us share more stories that remind us of the power of kindness, respect, and the extraordinary impact of ordinary heroes walking among us every day.